You ready? All right, let's do it. All right, so our first shot is going to be Karl, his announcement, and then we're going to bring it over to you, and then after that is Janie Hernandez, and then you'll, do your opener stuff, and then after that we bring Karl in live. Okie doke. All right, here we go.
Hi, it's Karl Gentles, and today I am thrilled to announce that I am officially a candidate for Arizona's 6th Congressional District, certified by the Secretary of State. Thank you, Congressional District 6. Thank you, Team Gentles. Thank you to all our volunteers. Next stop, winning the August 4th primary. Go Team Gentles.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us wherever you're at. Saturday morning with AJ. We have a special guest today. Really excited about him, Karl Gentles. We're going to have some really fun. He's a Democratic congressional candidate for, I think, District 6 in Scottsdale. So we're excited to be speaking with him shortly. And before we get to Karl, we're just going to go over some of the things that happened this week. Kind of excited about it. Some things that happened in the state this week. We want to, we know that the stimulus package passed. Second round of stimulus package, and I think the president signed it yesterday. So we hope this round that the small business actually get the funds this time. And that we all know that the small business didn't really get that much funds the first time. So we're hoping, which to me is small business is the backbone of our country. And they actually get the funds that is desperately needed. And hopefully it'll help some of the small business not go out of business because it's getting tired for them. And I got family and friends that have small business. So our prayers go out to them as well. Also, a local author, her name is Janie Hernandez, young author, and she just launched her new book. It's called Life is a Beautiful. There and at this time. Shout out to my Bay Boys, Alex, Ken, Andrew Heller, my water buddy. He's if you want some water, Hydrate, great water to buy and drink. Big brother Phil and Tiny Home Developers. Shout out to them and to all my family and friends back east. And I think the weather's great this week. But anyway, a shout out to them. Without further ado, we bring our special guest, Karl Gentles. But let's dig in here. Tell us a little bit, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you, your journey, your history, because this show really, we want to know everybody about that journey, because you just didn't wind up here all of a sudden out of the blue. There took us a sacrifice, ups and downs, and that go along with it. People don't understand success just don't land on your grass or in your lap, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about your journey, brief about that before we start getting into the details. Give people a little insight on who you are.
Congratulations on your show. I understand that this is perhaps the maiden voyage, so I am very pleased to be with you guys. The inaugural kickoff. It's always good to be first, okay? Because that means you're the lead dog. So there you go. But I appreciate the time. My name again is Karl Gentles. I am a Democratic candidate for the 6th Congressional District here in Arizona. The 6th Congressional District is a pretty large area, includes Northwest Phoenix and the Norterra area, Deer Valley area where I live. Carefree, Scottsdale, and a large share of northern Phoenix. So it is a significant piece of area. About 790,000 people, residents live in this district, right in District 6 at I-17 and Pinnacle Peak for the last 19 years now. The house we're sitting in, we built in 2000, and we've been here ever since. And so we love it up here. We've watched the development occur up here in North Phoenix, and then quite frankly, across the area that we just talked about. We've watched this development over the last 20 years. And as I mentioned, I've been in Arizona for more than 35 years. I came from California, from the Santa Barbara area, to come to school here. I actually started out as at the University of Arizona, and then transferred up to ASU. So with my wife now going to Grand Canyon, I've got the University of Arizona, I've got Arizona State and Grand Canyon all covered. So we just need to cover Northern Arizona. We're in good shape. But look, I've been looking at running for campaigns and consulting and advising on campaigns as a public relations consultant. And so it's something that we've been looking at for quite some time. And we felt, my wife and I finally said, look, we think now is the time. We think we've got some good ideas. We think we can get some things done based on the things that we've actually accomplished over the last 25 years here in the Valley. And we think we can do even more in Congress.
Jamaica, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Born in Kingston, Jamaica. Absolutely. Immigrated to the United States.
So, this kind of baffles me, and I always wonder. So, what made you wanted to really be in the forefront now instead of behind the scenes? Now you're in the forefront. You're the face. You're the face of your platform now. So, what made you really wanted to go from where you were from behind the scenes leadership to now in front, type of leadership?
Well, I had, as I mentioned, I'd been watching this congressional seat for some time, and as I saw things evolving nationally, and the kind of dialogue and the conversation that was taking place on the national level, I really felt compelled that it was time to step forward and bring some value that I didn't see in the political space right now. My background has been in service in a variety of ways. My family history, number of people in my family have been in service in their communities for many, many years, even in Jamaica, where we have a number of family members that serve in the Jamaican government, from the Superior Court to the Prime Minister's cabinet, even to the United Nations. One of my uncles was the mayor of Ocho Rios for many, many years. And so, as I kind of thought about, what needs to take place here in District 6, I just thought about the things that we had been doing over the last 25 years here in this valley, including working with nonprofit organizations like the Back to School Clothing Drive, which is what I am the executive director of right now in my actual job, where we provide opportunities for low-income Title I public elementary school students to succeed in school. We have supported and helped give them their basic needs over the last 11 years, and we've helped them succeed. And then when you go back to my time at USAA, where I was a part of the leadership team that brought USAA, the company, the military insurer USA at I-17 in Happy Valley. I was part of that leadership team that brought them to Phoenix, and we created over 3,000 jobs in that corporate relocation or a location here in Arizona. And so as I thought about the things that we've done over the years, I felt, look, we can. We have a track record of some things that we've done. We've achieved some success, and we thought that, look, if this country needs more value, people that can bring more value to their leadership and to the people that are in office. And we thought this was a great opportunity to do even more in service to this state and this community.
Okay, nice. So. Tell me a little bit about your platform and what are you bringing to the table that's different than just all this other. As far as what are you bringing to the table that's different than your opponent, and what's the same old as people say? Politicians, they get elected and they don't do anything. So just tell us about what your platform is and what Karl Gentle brings to the table.
Sure. So I believe that people should run for office on the things that they've actually accomplished, the things that they've actually done, so that the voting public can be informed about the person that is seeking to represent them in Congress. And so, as I mentioned, we've been very active here in Phoenix for over 25, almost 30 years here now, in the areas of education, job creation, and economic development. And so with my background in delivering for people in need in the education space, helping families that desperately need help to maintain their way of life, to increase their way of life, to make a better way of life for themselves. And also back to when we worked for USA, and we created over 3,000 jobs. And I can go back further in my career, dating back to when I worked at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and we brought in over 24 companies to the Valley, and then further back on. So I believe when you stand up for office, you should be running on the things that you've actually done, because that informs people of the things that you will be able to accomplish going forward. And so my platform is really based on those three areas: job creation, education, and economic development. And then as I kind of operationalize this for your viewers, we are in extraordinary times with this COVID-19 issue. And what this issue has done has exposed some weaknesses in our macro, global, national economy, and in many cases, the world economy, but it's also exposed a very thin layer of safety and security that families across this state have. And so, as we see, many people, almost 30% unemployment, at least is heading towards that. Many people have lost their jobs, and the loss of a single paycheck, one single paycheck, has thrown family economics into chaos. That's why I'm running, because we've got to do something about that. That's unacceptable. We have to change the fundamental structure of this economy that strengthens the ability of people to have a good quality of life without worrying about losing their job, and the loss of a job 2 weeks later during economic crisis. That's a problem. And that's really what this my campaign is really focused on, is how do we change that? How do we change the direction of the small business owner who has to close or is in jeopardy of going bankrupt or closing their doors for no fault of their own? They've been running a wonderful, great company, and then an issue like this comes up, and they're in total stress and chaos by no fault of their own. And so we've got to change fundamentally how we support these small businesses. We have to fundamentally change how our families are doing. The dinner table conversations, right? AJ, you have them, we all have them. The dinner table conversations. And by the way, I understand you have 15 brothers and sisters, so I know dinner table conversations were something around your table, right? So let's there it is. I mean, we are dealing with real issues, real economic issues, and these are micro issues which are at the dinner table. Are you going to be able to keep the utilities going during this crisis? Is your mortgage going to get paid? Are you still going to have shelter after this? And so those are the issues that are that we're looking at, talking about, and making sure that we find some policy issues and create some policy issues that protects the American family.
Yeah, speaking of the mortgage thing, that's kind of crazy thing right there. A lot of people are looking into that, trying to do the forbearance and all that stuff. They don't know that's going to affect their credit. And once they start to realize, I imagine there will be a public outcry on that. And then the small business, man, the second round of funding, I hope it gets to them. What do you think the state, as in regards to that, what is the state are doing to maybe help the small business stay in business? What have you heard anything about that, or what would you do? What is your thought on that?
Well, I think the first priority is always the safety and health of your customer, right, and the safety of health of all of us. Because look, you can recover from losing money, but you don't recover from dying. When you die, it's done, right? But you can always rebuild. You can always rebuild. You can always find a new job, take a new career path. You can start afresh as a small business owner. And look, small businesses aren't automatically successful the day they open. They go in peaks and valleys. Some close, some reopen, some restructure. You change directions. I own a small business. I own a public relations agency with my wife, and we've had to adjust, change, all restructure over the last number of years since 2007 when I opened it up. So the resiliency of the small business owner is key. But look, they can't do it alone. You need help, especially in times that are driven by something that occurs that directly impacts their ability to operate by no fault of their own. And that's what we have here today. And so there are a couple of things I would say very specifically. You're right. First, we've got to make sure that the funding from the CARES package, the new funding, gets to the actual small business owner. The challenge that we had in the first round is that the definition of a small business, I think, was incorrect. which was that if you are a company with 500 employees or less, you qualify. Now
Right.
think about that.
500 people. Come on, 500 employees. To me, that number should have been 150 or less, or even 100 to me. But
Easily.
Arguably, yes. But 500, that's way off.
It is. And what if we change the criteria to being revenue driven? So if you're a small business that you make $250,000 or less, which is probably the majority lion's share of what is a small business, making about $250,000 or less, maybe they should be at the front of the line before larger. So you set a criteria that says revenue at X amount and employees at X amount, then you are at the front of the line. I really do think that we do need to set aside, earmark very specifically an amount of money specifically for the small business owner, specifically for the sole proprietor, right? And yes, now I'm not saying that we shouldn't help large companies in this time. We certainly should, because they clearly are our family. People that we all know, they all work for large companies. Not everybody works for a small business. Not everybody is a small business. So people go and work at these companies, they draw their paycheck and they make a good living. So I think we have to do something to make sure that those businesses don't fail. But at the same time, you've got to make sure the small business doesn't fail. And I think in this next round, we have to make sure that is the case.
You know, lending funds available is not always available for the small businesses. You know, the big business have lines and they have more because they have more revenue. They have a little bit more options in reference to lending, where the small business, depending on their revenue or just depending on a lot of different things, they may not have the accessibility of those kind of funds. Especially, you know, the mom and pop's restaurants that you go to, those are just so important to the communities.
Right. And they don't have the resources to chase down the money, right? These larger companies have resources, people that have the ability and time to chase down the money. The small business is running the business. I've heard stories of this last round where people were setting their clocks at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting for that application to open up so they can jump on and make sure that they put their application in. It's that kind of thing that's going on. But I think in addition, the one of the challenges in this small business lending issue in this first round is that the banking institutions, you know, who they are defaulting to, I shouldn't use the word default, but who they were funding first were their customers that they know well. And here's the thing, the challenge is that we have to make some structural change as well, which is that perhaps the origination fees on those loans are the same that you get for booking the large corporate business, the $10 million loan, as it is for the $250,000 loan, because what that then does is it incentivizes the financial institutions to take care of everybody, not their largest clients first, where they're going to make the most money on booking the loans. And so there are some structural changes that we ought to be looking at to make sure that the money gets delivered equitably and to the companies that truly need it.
Is that they have the relationship so that they're helping these big business with stimulus, but they're looking down the road for a future business where they will make money on. So that's where the advantage comes in, because these small businesses don't have that type of platform to operate on. So a lot of the banks and the SBA guys, the SBA is just guaranteeing it, but a lot of them was just when they were letting the banks do it, it's just because banks was based
for a second, because 100 people protesting does not mean a majority when you have 7 million others staying at home, right? And so you have to be careful of that. What you see on TV.
All kinds of stuff downtown. It's just crazy. I think people just antsy.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
because and kind of just stop complaining. I think people plug into this news too much, and they're just listening to everything and just making them nervous and crazy. I
Yeah,
had to myself had to unplug and
yeah.
go outside and enjoy the Arizona a little bit. The air.
Yeah, to that point, my wife and I have made a conscious decision to regulate, really kind of control how much of the news and TV we're watching. We of
Yeah.
course, we're on our phones all day, so we keep up on things that are going on, but we really
Right.
try to digest what we need to know. Instead of being mesmerized on what the breaking news is all day long, because it really can have an impact on you. And people need to really take care of themselves mentally and physically.
Right.
Mentally, particularly in this time where we're all under a lot of stress, and we need to be able to do things like you said, to really kind of calm ourselves. We spend a lot of time in our backyard now. We did before. We spent a lot more time out in the backyard enjoying this beautiful clean air that we have all of a sudden, right?
I know. I know. Gosh, clear skies, and
Yeah, it's
normally
amazing.
like the South Mountains, you see just a whole big cloud
Yeah,
dust
yeah.
and pollution. But now you see it's just clear, and it hasn't even rained in a little bit. So
Yeah, yeah. So we're doing a lot of that. We are spending time around the house doing some home improvement projects. We're going out for walks and doing some good social distancing while we do that. We're doing things just to help keep our mental health sharp as well, because I think that's vitally important. My family and I, we do a Zoom conference call on Saturdays. My brother's a personal trainer. We do a virtual workout, and then we just catch up and make sure everybody's good and checks in. I think those kind of things are really what are going to pull us through, because we're social distancing, but we shouldn't be disconnected from one another. And we should continue to figure out how we can keep that connection going. And I think you'll see when this is all said and done that people's behaviors, their lifestyles, what they think about the importance of things, I think they're going to start to reprioritize things as we go forward, and really start to focus in on the things that really are important and will make a difference.
I think people's mental health is going to be affected a lot more than they even think. I mean, than they that's out there. I think this situation is really, once even we start to open and get to a point, it's really going to like a PTSD kind of situation, delayed
Yeah.
aspect to this that we haven't not yet seen quite as yet. But I think that hopefully we get some type of resources out there for just like you said, the physical and the mental health. People need to recognize that because this whole situation is can drive you kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
As we go through this for the next, probably expect to be in this situation for the next couple of weeks at least. I think people are going to start reprioritizing what's important to them, what's important to their families, what's important to them personally. And everybody's taken a stock of their economic situation as well, the family economics, the family dynamics, and many families now are prioritizing what they're going to pay, right? To make sure that they make it through this time when resources and their income is cut in many cases, if not in half, 100%. And so families are now forced to make some real hard choices and decisions. And that's not where we need to have our families anymore. We've got to really think about how do we reimagine the quality of life that people have, particularly as it comes to the basics, right? food, shelter, safety. Those are things that people are really thinking about right now. While not, the reason why people have jobs is to build a good life, to have a good quality of life, right? And so without the job, all of a sudden now your quality of life plummets. You're now in a situation where you've got a lot more worry on your plate than you had before, and so we've really got to make sure that people can still take care of their shelter. For instance, if you're renting and you now are, you can't make your rent payment, are you just going to be thrown out? I think that's a great move that the governor made to freeze all evictions and evictions. I think that was a strong move and on the side of the Arizona family, because look, as I understand it, evictions are on hold, but the calls for payment still aren't. People are still calling. Apartment complexes are still calling, asking
what we're going to do when this situation is over. When 90 days, I think he's suspended for the 90 days, but what happens after the 90 days? If they don't have that money, or what happens?
Yeah, I think the governor and our state leadership are going to have to continue to evaluate the situation and decide whether or not it gets extended a little bit further, or what happens from here. And I think hopefully they'll make a responsible decision along those lines to help the Arizona family that literally is in an apartment that they may not be able to make their rent because they work for a restaurant and that restaurant is closed. They have a dual income, but both the mother and father are out of work. Somebody I heard used a phrase. We ought to just put everything into suspension for a moment.
Yeah, because you got the investor, right? Because you got the landlord too, and he has to pay his bill as well. And
right.
How can we make these people whole and still be able to provide some relief across the board? You know what I mean? So we need to figure something out so that everyone is in a good spot, as well as we can. Because we do got according to the governor, we do have $1 billion surplus, right?
Well,
so we can take some of the funds. Huh?
That's gone now. Oh yeah, that's gone. It sure doesn't. I know I can make $1 billion go a lot longer, but apparently not. So yeah, but it's a challenge. Yeah. Right. And that is, as I understand it, that is, if not cut in half, is well on its way to that place right now. Because look, I mean, the state depends on revenues coming in the door to be able to build that rainy day fund. And while we still have a rainy day fund, I'm not sure the amount. You can imagine that is probably going to be tapped into, used for vital services, which is what it's there for.
Can't give you actual cash, but from the investor to the landlord, everybody gets a tax break and something. We're gonna have to do something. I can see that coming in 90 days, just a cluster, and then it will be a mess, But going to that, or will, or has, or is going to affect our state. Housing, we got a housing issue for affordable living. We got people coming from out of the state. A lot of people moving in the state, and it's causing some of the prices of the homes to go up, where the people that live here and are in these hourly kind of types of jobs, they can't afford to get a home. We got some health issues and jobs issues. So those things are going to actually, as we post coronavirus, is going to move to the forefront. So how do you think we need to address this? And, especially with the, coming from my business, affordable living, where, not even the builders are, there's a clog up there, an alternative like tiny homes and stuff like that. How can we get some of these markets? And by the way, that will also produce jobs. How can we get some of this stuff going and on, which we're not dealing with all this red tape and situation that we're definitely, it's going to be a problem as we start to move forward and the country starts to open.
Sure.
I hear that in California, they're building tents and all kinds of stuff for the homeless people, that like taking parking lots and making it like a tent city. People bringing their tents and living, it's so they can create those social distances as well. And I understand we're doing some of that downtown too, possibly for the homeless in our parking areas. So I mean,
well,
give us
first I would say that it's my belief that a safe and decent, affordable housing is a human right for everybody. Everybody deserves a safe, secure place to live. And affordable, in my mind, is what is affordable to you. Whether you are a first responder or you're a teacher or you're a grandparent, whomever you are. And so whatever is affordable is in the eye of the beholder, if you will, and what's affordable to you and your level of income. And so clearly we must have a variety of housing that is available to the level of income in which that you find yourself. And so, and really the level of your income level shouldn't be a determinant exclusively of where you live.
Yeah.
Right. So you shouldn't. So affordable housing needs to be affordable across the spectrum of people's income and should not limit where they live as a result of that. And so, I think you're going to find that there's going to be a greater emphasis on workforce housing, meaning that there's housing close to where people are actually working. You see a lot of that going on downtown right now, although the rents in downtown are skyrocketing.
It's crazy. And you got to think about the income level. So if someone's making, if you're, in our state, right to work state, and these people are making $12 an hour and they got 10 of their family, wife is dual income and they barely can live, right. Like you said, work where they live because they can't afford the area. Right. Downtown prices are going up crazy, and there's no affordable building, like homes like under 150 or below, right. That are decent or in decent neighborhoods, where because you got that safety issue that you want to, every family wants to be around as well. So, there's all kinds of challenges.
What we're going to need to do as we go forward is we need to reimagine various parts of our social fabric, our the way we live, our way of life, right? Because this whole issue has really exposed kind of this underbelly of this economy that we always knew was there, always just below the surface. And now it's out in open public for everybody to see, and it's really exposed the need to really reimagine some things, and that includes reimagining our definition and how people go about whether it's a forever home or it's a home for transition period, whatever it might be. Or it's a home that you live in for 5, 10, 15 years, and then you move on, whatever the case is. But I think this has given us an opportunity to reimagine everything about the way we live in, particularly in when it comes to housing. Because what we know is that, again, as I said earlier, families are a paycheck a month, maybe 2 months away from losing everything. And the first thing that typically goes is what? Their house. And that is really concerning, because when people start losing their homes, that's when this economy really starts to really take a significant dive. We saw that in 2008, didn't we? We've been through that a couple of times now. We need to put some policy and regulation in place that stops that from occurring. Almost as if there's a trigger that says, okay, enough is enough. There's no more. We can't withstand any further, spiral. Somewhat like they do with the stock market, right? So if the stock market plummets at a certain amount, it stops trading. So we got to put in some mechanisms that really assures people that, there is some safety net somewhere here. And by the way, I'm a market capitalist. All right, I really am. It may not sound like it right now, but I really am. I think competition and market drives good behavior. It really does overall. But there is this element of this social structure that we really need to take a very close look at. And so when it comes to housing, we've got to make sure that there is available housing at every level of people's ability. And what that's going to require, I think, is to reimagine how we go about developing and putting houses and keeping houses in stock and on the market. And that's going to take some strong partnerships between the public sector, the government, investors to make that occur.
And I think looking at alternative housing, like I was telling you, tiny homes,
right,
all these other different types of other products than just building big homes, just, people want a home and
right.
Before to start digging into it, the tiny homes concept is people, I know people that are selling their bigger homes to just the downsize. So we start looking at these alternatives, they're affordable. People can be able to have savings, be able to live in there. It may not be, big, but guess what? When, you have an option, to live in nothing or in your car, or to live and have something, you know what I mean? I think they're going to take the latter rather than just living in their car.
I love it. I love it. I think this concept of alternative housing, as you mentioned, tiny homes, is a wonderful concept. And I think there is going to rapidly. I think that market is going to rapidly expand. And demand for that kind of housing is going to rapidly expand. And we know it's relatively new. Some cities around the country are aggressively going after that new concept in housing. Perhaps we do something along the lines of implementing some tax credit policy around building of these alternative homes, like tiny homes, for instance, where we have found much success in the low-income housing tax credits. We potentially could have policies that incentivizes the tiny home community development as well. Because I assure you that if there was an ability for people to, if a person had a choice of a tiny home or, as you said, living out of their car, or the uncertainty of what they're going to do from month to month based on their rent, I think a tiny home would, something of that nature, concept would certainly be a good option for people. And so perhaps there is an opportunity for us, as we talked about, reimagining housing and what occurs to allow people more affordable access and choice and alternatives.
As we continue to talk, we're gonna anybody has any questions, or our audience, any have any questions or concerns that you would like to address with our guests, please let us know, and we'll while he's on the line so that we can answer any questions that you might have. Corey, do we have any questions? So while we're waiting for our first questions, what's going on, like, with mental health, and what do you think about that? I can imagine, people are talking about the homeless, but they're, especially during this situation, we already had a mental health issue already, but I imagine this situation is going to totally make it worse.
Yeah, and what I might do is just talk more broadly about healthcare in general, because mental health, behavioral health is a significant part of that. And as you've probably heard a theme from me, which is in this crisis is an opportunity for us to reimagine how we go about things. It's an opportunity for us to really kind of rethink our approach to various issues, including healthcare, which is at the top of mind of everybody right now.
Yeah, but right now, no one has it. Well, a lot of those people that was laid off, they lost their medical insurance. So what?
So there you have it. I mean, that tells you that we've got to figure out a different way to go about this healthcare, our healthcare policy. So, in my opinion, I don't think your healthcare should be tied to the fact that you have a job. It has to be able to stand independent of your job, so that you have healthcare no matter where you're working or what you're doing, because healthcare is a fundamental right, I believe, of people. So we have to reimagine things. So, for instance, I think this is a real opportunity for us to take a look at in which we have been over time, looking at this Affordable Care Act and strengthening the Affordable Care Act and allowing more people to join the marketplace at a reasonable price that they can afford, whether or not they have a job. That is a critical thing that we need to do. We need to expand this Affordable Care Act so that it covers more and more people. There are many elements to that, right? For instance, there is a significant issue around people's access to healthcare. So, for instance, a couple of things I think that we can do as we go forward is, in which is you're seeing the growing Yes, I'm here.
Sorry, we had technical difficulties.
All
This is,
good. All
you
good.
know,
And boy,
our,
I said my best stuff in the middle of all that.
I know I heard you. You were on a roll, man. I understand we had a question. It's like a lot of people, from my understanding, I've been on a lot of texting. A lot of people are trying to get in and trying to see and trying to talk to you, and so you're kind of famous out there. A lot of people want to talk to you on this show. Just to look at one of the questions, I think Tiny Home Builders said. Tiny home builders were saying that one of their biggest problems is just regulations and trying to get permits and all that stuff. And there's a lot of people that just basically are not familiar with a lot of the codes that, the zoning codes and all that stuff. So that has been a lot of their challenges. It's just been a cluster, and that they wanted to address that. So I'll let you go ahead and address that, and I'll try to just let you know some of the questions that people have because of our problem with our technical difficulty.
Sure, and I don't profess to be an expert on regulatory issues around housing, but what I can tell you is that perhaps there needs to be some uniformity between cities and counties and in how we go about the regulation of our housing industry. And so, look, as I mentioned, I'm a free market capitalist. I believe that the market drives good behavior ultimately, because without the good behavior, consumers don't follow. But to your point about regulation, a certain amount of regulation needs to be in place to protect the consumer, right? To make sure that we have some uniformity about what we're doing. And these issues around the red tape are mostly at the city level when it comes to building permits, etc. Governed, of course, by our national rules and regulations, but typically driven down to the city level. And so one of the things that we need to do, and people should do, is they ought to be talking directly to their city representative, their mayor, and their city council members to make sure that, and here's what I suggest is that, people ought to be identifying the problem and bringing forward, after they identify the problem, bring forward the solution that they bring to their representative, because representatives, like nothing more than somebody that comes to them with an actual solution and says, look, here's what I ran into. This is what I think is the way forward, and what could minimize the stress and the cost burden or the time issue. I
don't think they had an issue with the regulation. They more had the issue with the bottlenecking and the delay and people actually there not knowing their own regulations in reference to. But you have a point. You try to get with your representative and identify the issues, and hopefully that they can start digging in and trying to make this situation a better for the investor, and because they're, and because it's hurting them and it's hurting the consumer as well.
Right, and I think there has to be some, I think you have to look at kind of where the incentive is for the investor and for the builder, right? Because again, we're trying to get a product that's affordable out into the market, right? And so perhaps there has to be a new look at the way we incentivize the investor, the developer, to do these things. And so I think that's again, this is a market-driven economy. People are going to purchase if it's available, but the question is, can you get it on the market at an affordable price, right? In a price that still allows the investor, the developer, to make a good living, providing a product that people need.
Yeah. Another question someone had, I just noticed, they were asking, what about a universal pay? We heard some people was asking about, what about universal pay?
Yeah, what's this? Now we have this conversation here between my wife and I and others. You know who the smartest guy in the room right now is? And is Yang. Yang, right? Yang must be sitting here saying, "Wait a minute, have I not been talking about this for the last year?" And all of a sudden now everybody's getting a check. That's basically what he was talking about. This is he was talking about, which was a concept that everybody kind of scratched their head about and said, well, now, why would we do that? And now you know why you would do something like that. So, on its surface, I like the concept. The question I have is how you sustain that. How you sustain that over multiple years. So if everybody gets $1,000 in universal pay every month, how do you sustain that? Where's that money actually going to come from? How are we going to generate the revenue to make that happen on an ongoing basis? I haven't studied his plan in depth, but conceptually, it sounds good, and certainly it's what's going on right now. Interesting concept. So I think there's going to be a lot more study around that to see, and maybe it's not a full universal pay, but it's some modification thereof. For instance, I keep saying that why does it take us a crisis to figure out how to do things differently? So why don't we look at what we've just done and try to put some things in place right now that averts this ramp up time. For instance, dare I say, on the medical side, this testing issue has been a colossal disaster. I think we can all universally agree with that.
I think we all can universally agree with that, for sure.
Yeah, why did it take us a crisis to figure out we've got a colossal failure in testing?
Yeah.
So we've got to put some things in place now that averts these tragic, almost fall off the cliff situations in the future.
Well, hopefully, how they say trial and error, that now that we realize where our weaknesses and pitfalls are, that we, like you said, we'd be able to learn from that and create some kind of platform where we're not in this situation anymore.
Right.
We're not. I would like to actually congratulate a lot of the governors in our country. They're really doing, I think, overall, not, the majority of them are really seem like they have stepped up in their leadership role and taking the bull by the horns, be it right or be it wrong. And I'm sure they have people agree and some people don't agree, that's America. But it just seems like to me across the board, you're just really seeing them step up front.
Yeah, if I could say, I would agree with that. I think generally, overall, our Governor Ducey is doing a good job in this. Again, it's a tough situation. Could he do some things better? Absolutely. But it's a tough balancing act that he's got here. And I do believe that they are doing a good job right now. Now, that can change, okay? And it changes day to day, right? So, as long as we are putting the safety and health of our Arizona families first, that's the most important thing. Now, that being said, I am not in favor of opening beauty shops, barber shops, parlors, tattoo. I don't understand the concept or reason why. And look, I'm a small business person. I know the value of revenue. I know the value that being open and running has on your balance sheet, right? But just understand some of the decisions around, for instance, in Georgia, where they're opening up, tattoo parlors, and it makes no sense to me. Again, I go back to the concept. You said it well. We just got to cool our heels. It's hard right now. It's tough. people are losing their jobs. They're losing things. That we understand that. That's what this economic package, this care package, is for. That's what nonprofits around this country are for, to help people bridge the time and gap, so that we can really defeat this crisis right now and not find ourselves in the same position in 6 months.
Good. I think you said that very, very well. So as we're getting close to closing this down, let's talk about you and your Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk a little sports, because I miss sports, man.
I do too.
Did you watch the last stand with Jordan and the Bulls? I mean, that's a phenomenal series.
What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? Did I watch it? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think everybody's been watching that sucker, man.
Look, we grew up. Michael Jordan is, and I'll speak for you, okay? And everybody, Michael Jordan's our hero. How could we not watch him? And see all of that.
It's very interesting to get that inside look of, because no one never knows what's they see what they want you to see on TV, but you're going totally inside and looking at the challenges and the difficulties, like everything. There's a backstory to it. So
yeah. Well, and you know what the backstory is in watching this, and look, we've only seen 2 episodes now. The backstory is what it takes to be a champion. That's the backstory, right? The good and the bad and the ugly, right? Because not everybody can perform at that level for as long as he did without being different. And Michael Jordan is singular on this earth. Singular.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, from what I'm reading, he just gained, because the younger generation, that's not in our area. They've gotten a new respect for Jordan. And that's a lot of things. The reading, I've been reading people's notes and stuff like that. They didn't, because they didn't get a chance to see him play. You know what I mean? Or I remember Jordan when he had the flu and he played. He looked like he was dying. You remember that, right?
Of course.
And I'm like, I was just, oh my gosh, crazy.
I get goosebumps thinking about that now, right? I mean, I'm getting all hyped up and excited just thinking about. I mean, the drive and the drive to win is relentless. I remember one of the highlights that I had about Michael Jordan is not even having to do with basketball. It was when he played for the Chicago White Sox, and they had spring training out here. And we got to go and see him play while he was here one year. And that was just a highlight because, we grew up with Michael Jordan, and he was iconic when he was playing, and just getting a chance to even be, watch him on the basketball court or in his brief stint in baseball was really something else. But your question to me was about my Dallas Cowboys. So let me tell you. Boy, that was one nice transition, my friend. I like that. Let me tell you, I like like many around this country, I became a Dallas Cowboy fan because of Tony Dorsett. Tony Dorsett, when I watched him run, that was it for me. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan ever since, right? Because I had a poster in my room that of Tony Dorsett, and his feet were not touching the ground. I just thought the man could fly. All right, so I've been watching the Cowboys for many, many years. I like where they are. Yeah, it's iconic. Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Look at all their draft choices, but look, we just added one of the top receivers in in college football to our ranks to go along with the receivers we already had, and Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, look, we've got some good talent. And I remember we were talking and said, yeah, we always got talent, but we can't win. But I assure you,
Okay.
I assure you.
Okay, so you want to put your money where your mouth is, a little gentleman wager.
A gentleman wager when the Cowboys play the 49ers.
We'll go dinner. We're gonna go out to dinner, and you're gonna have to take me to a nice dinner. Dallas Cowboys. Okay, so predict what you think their record's going to be this upcoming season. Well, what are we thinking? Because if they can't do it, if they
Well, see now that it sounds like you're a 49er fan there, so I'll let that one slide. But I think look, we've got a brand new coach in Holgram, so one might say that there's going to be some adjustment, which there clearly will be, but Holgram has a history of winning, so the time to put his system in place, I don't think is going to be that long, and we've got some really skilled players in position. Well, yeah. I'm a little more pragmatic about things, even in sports, right?
So
I think they'll at least get to the playoffs.
Yeah, because every year, I think every year I've heard a Dallas fan or fans saying that Dallas is going to the Super Bowl, and they just, it's like, are you kidding me? What the build up on that they have? They're going to the Super Bowl. What are you referencing? So
look, I've got two favorite teams: the Dallas Cowboys and, of course, my Arizona Cardinals. And I think both are putting great pieces in place. I would love to see the Cardinals make it to the playoffs. This may be, we're unfortunately we're on the other side of the equation where Larry Fitzgerald's, years left in the league are probably less than they, winding down than they are building up. So we're not going to have Larry. We're not going to have Larry. This might be his last year, and so
I think it'll be his last year. I think for sure this will be his last year.
Yeah,
he's a good guy. Right. He's a really good guy. Probably going to miss him. I'm not necessarily a huge Cardinals fan. I got buddies that played on the Cardinals and stuff like that. But I support him because I live here. But when the 49ers play, I support 49ers. That's my boys. That's my boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the same with me and the Cowboys.
Huh?
It's the same with me and the Cowboys. I love the Cardinals as well, but when the Cowboys come to town, they are my team.
I like that. I don't think we have any more questions, but I would like to thank you for joining and thank you for being a gracious guest. I mean, you were very. It was great speaking with you and being sensible about stuff. I think I can reach you or whatever. Let them know. We're supposed to.
Sure. What's most important is that people that have listened to this found the time valuable, that they got something that will help them. Look, we have from the very beginning run this campaign from a position of service first and foremost, and to help people to continue doing what we've done over the last 30 years here in the Valley and be of service. My website is gentlesforcongress.com. And if I could hear from people, even on our social media sites, let us know how you're doing out there, what we can do to be of service. That's our first and number one priority. So I'd love to hear from people make sure that we know what's going on in their lives and the things that they see that we can do as we go forward in Congress to support their quality of life. And I on your show. I hope that we helped you kick it off in a fashion that will have people coming back in months and months to come to listen to you, because I've enjoyed this. You're doing a great thing here, great service to this community, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Well, it didn't go off without any technical difficulties, but we're hopefully as we go along that we're going to improve. When we hopefully we'll have you back as when this coronavirus thing is over, and as you start to get out there, we'll have you back on, and we'll talk some more issues and your campaign and Dallas Cowboys.
You got it. I'll look forward to that. Thank you very much.
I want to thank my engineer and producer, Corey Schwartz. He is diligently been working like day and night, 16 hours a day, trying to make this happen. And I appreciate him. And I appreciate our guests and people that's watched it. Sorry for the people that could not get on. I know there was a lot of people that wanted to call in and they're in line and they couldn't get through.